Welcome to the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast from Never Too Late Cafe. I'm your host, Laura Womack. Each week, we sit down for a chat with someone just like you, someone who had an idea, a passion, a dream, or sometimes just a thought, and planted that seed, watched it grow into something they wanted to share with the world. If you have an idea for a topic or someone that would be a guest for the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook, where you can join our Never Too Late Cafe Facebook group. We'd love to hear from you. And today I have a special guest with me, and I would like him to introduce himself and tell us where he currently lives.
Hello, everyone. My name is Morgan Washam, and I live in Jackson, Ohio, and I'm a public school teacher and a songwriter.
Excellent. So is Jackson where you're from originally?
Oh, yes, I've been in Jackson quite a long time, most of my life, actually. I lived in Athens County for a while I attended Ohio University as an undergraduate, and but other than that, I've lived in Jackson County my whole life.
Oh, excellent. So, okay, you teacher, and let's get into the music part. So tell us a little bit about how you got started
Okay.
in music.
Well, I gotta say, music's been a part of my life for pretty much all of my life. Um, a lot of people in my family were gifted with music, and so as a young man growing up here in Jackson, um, I I was exposed to music. I have to say, I had a great aunt. Her name was Doris, but she went by Dodie, and she played ragtime piano. She grew up in the 1920s and 30s in her youth, and she wanted dearly to go and travel and play in a band, and play jazz music and jazz piano. And her mom wouldn't let her. And in those days, when your mom didn't let you, you didn't do it probably. So,
Right.
um, but or a lot of times you didn't around here, at least, I guess. So, but she always instilled her love for music in me, and kind of provided spaces for me to be creative, as well as my father and other members of my family. I also can say that one of the greatest influences on me in terms of being able to have the guts to get up and perform in front of a crowd, and it was the Estedfods. And the Estedfod program is something that is possibly unique. I know it's not unique to Jackson, but it's around Southeast Ohio. Jackson City Schools has done the Estedfod, and basically it is a Welsh singing competition, and they have these in the schools in Jackson. And so the young people, everyone gets to, well, it used to be when I was in school, every young person had to sing a solo, and then they kind of phased that out because it,
Oh,
it created a little bit of anxiety, I think. But um, but nowadays kids can partner up, or and do duets and trios, and they do it both vocally and instrumentally. And this next year in 2025 26 will be the 100th year of the Estedfods in Jackson schools. um, and so that's something that was a Welsh tradition that was brought here by folks that settled here in the 1800s and early 1900s. And then that tradition ended up playing out in our school system. There's a lot more history to that, but I have to credit that because, whether it was Big Rock Candy Mountain or Old Dan Tucker, or a song like Lonesome Valley, standards like that, we are, that are traditional folk songs. Um, that's where I got my start. And of course my aunt and my family, and they nurtured my love of music and helped me get lessons on guitar. And things just kind of went from there, and that's how my musical journey started.
so what type of music do you currently play? Describe what you do.
I would say I meander around the what people would characterize as the Americana genre, which I would say folk, country, blues, rock and roll. I would say all those intertwine in that genre, and so, or it could be interchangeable within that genre, across boundaries, I suppose. Um, and so I just I write music for those genres, or I'll write music for any genre. I'm not opposed to experimenting or stretching my boundaries and growth, but that those are primarily the genres that I work in.
So, do you also play out in the community or, um, you
I
know,
do. I do. I've performed out for about 25 or 30 years in varying capacities. Um, I'm kind of going through a period right now where I'm been waning on. I kind of pulled back what I was doing. My partner and I have been building a homestead, or adding on to a home and expanding for our family. So I kind of put performing on the back burner for a little bit to take on that project. But we're just now seeing the daylight of getting that project completed or close to it. So I'm looking forward here to getting back out in the community and performing again. I do have a couple bookings on the calendar, but I've for the past year or so I've been kind of not doing as many performances.
okay. And so what is the region that you typically go in? Is it your Southern Ohio area or do you go out of the region any?
Um, I and some of the well, and when I was in college, when I was living at Ohio University in the Athens County area, um, I played in a band called Peach Melba, and we played in like 13 different states or so around the Mid Atlantic and Midwest region. And we did that in the era before Facebook. We haven't played much in many years, but I have hopes that we can get back together and do that again. We had a lot of fun, but really at this point, I usually in the past 10 years, say I've really only played like the tri-state, Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky area.
Um, so what instruments do you play or instrument?
Um, well, I started. I guess the first instrument I learned, and I would go back. Well, maybe for a second, I'd take a detour back to my roots. A guy by the name of Paul Hogue, who is a former band director at Vinton County and Jackson County. He uh, he got me started playing the trumpet in fifth grade. And I played trumpet all through high school, and I really enjoyed the trumpet. I'd like to come back to that. Well, I need to work on my embouchure. I've got my embouchure way out of whack, but I really enjoyed the trumpet. And if you know about brass instruments, if your embouchure's out, you need to work a little bit. Um, but I play the guitar. I can play the trumpet. I would say I can fake a little bit of piano or keyboard. If I practice, I can play something, but I'm not fluid on the keyboard. That's one of my goals, as well as harmonica. I hope to assimilate those instruments into my, my abilities here in the midterm. But but no, guitar is my predominant instrument, and my voice. Although you wouldn't know it by the way my voice is sounding, but it's such a blessing to be able to speak to you because I haven't had a voice for a couple of weeks, as we had discussed prior, due to my little illness I had there. So.
Wow. Yeah. So, do you just play solo or do you currently play with other people?
I play with other people. I mentioned Paul Hogue taught me trumpet and got me interested in the school band here in Jackson in fifth grade. And I perform with his son. His son plays bass guitar and upright bass, and his name's Jason Hogue. I perform with him. Also perform with another fellow currently named Jordan Lombardo, and I perform with a percussionist named Keith Wilson. I've also performed in the past with a keyboardist named Ryan Paradise. Um, and I performed with a percussionist named Brian Carney. There's several. I wouldn't call it a troupe of performers, but I mean it kind of is. If certain performers can do a performance, then if they're local, I try to have the local performers do it with me when I can. But
Absolutely.
if not, some of these others that I mentioned from the Peach Melba days perform with me. We currently have a group called Wildwood Franklin that we showcase some of my songs in, and I perform lead vocals in that. Jordan Lombardo sings backing vocals and guitar, and as I said, Keith Wilson, who is also the one of the band directors in the Jackson City Schools. He does the percussion with us currently.
Very cool. Well, to go back a sec,
Paradise. What a name.
Oh yes, yes. Um, I have an album called Blood Moon. If you go on the streaming services, you can check that out. But Ryan Paradise did most of the keyboard work on Blood Moon, as well as a friend of mine named Brian Turner did some keyboard work as well. But Ryan did. It was on pretty much every track. Brian, a lot of rhyming names, many Brians and Ryans.
Yeah.
But um, I. But Ryan Paradise was on pretty much every track on Blood Moon, and is a wonderful keyboard player. He's out of the Columbus, Ohio area.
Okay. So, do you have future plans for recordings, or how do you, so you're on streaming. Do you have anything that you've produced? I mean, you've been around
Um,
doing music for a long.
yeah, I mean, we have like I have that Blood Moon on CD, and I have a live album that I've done on CD, and then the other stuff I've done. We have many recordings that Peach Melba did on CD as well, but we currently don't have those for sale. A lot of people don't have CD players anymore, and they're kind of a novelty, even though they do have better sound quality than the streaming services. But I do have plans to release. Actually, I just released a single that's going to be on a new album I have coming out here in I would say, likely midsummer. But I haven't decided if I'm going to release them as an album at first, or if I'm going to just do all the singles and then release it. I'm kind of still contemplating on that. I haven't released anything for a while, but I'm going to release some of the songs under my own name, and some of the songs will be with Wildwood Franklin. Um, and Wildwood Franklin, we're also going to be releasing a live record soon that we recorded at the Marquee Theater in Jackson, Ohio. Um, but I'm very excited about our studio efforts that I've been working on, and I had one song just come out. It's called "There Ain't Nobody I Love." Excuse the grammar, but um, but it and then there's going to be another one I've got coming out here next month, and it's going to be called Mountainside. And I'm very proud of those songs. Those songs have Jason Hogue on them, and it's a hodgepodge of different performers that I've worked with. I guess the one that I just released has Jason Hogue and Jordan Lombardo and myself, and then it has a drummer by the name of Chad Cromwell, and he actually is from Memphis originally, and he lives in California and Los Angeles, but he commutes between Nashville, Los Angeles, and he's a great drummer. He actually the drummer that played with Neil Young on "Rockin' in the Free World." So I'm pretty blessed to get to perform
Wow.
with that guy, and that's just one name. I hate to name drop there, but he he's played with many people. If you look at his song or his discography and who he's worked with, but was very fortunate to get to play with Chad. He just is a wealth of percussion knowledge, and he's one of the finest drummers I've ever worked with. So that was a real pleasure. But we're very excited. We have Mountainside coming out. Chad's on Mountainside. We also have Bill Zanow Billy Zanow. He's a bassist from Columbus, going to be playing on that. And my friend Brad Huffman, who played in Peach Melba on lead guitar. And Brad lives in Boulder, Colorado, and he's going to be on that recording. And my hope is that we can get these out. And I've kind of got some goals. I teach public school, but I kind of have a 2-year goal here to get back and start doing some mini tours again, so to speak, and with some of these musicians I've mentioned. And so I look forward to getting together with many of them, and especially in summertime. I mean, as a public school teacher, some people like to do different things. I kind of aspire to get back on the festival circuit and enjoy traveling around and seeing some sights and breaking bread with people. That's kind of what I enjoy doing. And it's what it's all about, making connections.
And you have people from various states, and that must take quite a bit of coordinating anyway. You've got
Yes,
Colorado, someone from
yes, I've
Tennessee.
Yes, I've got a home studio, which I mean has been sort of dismantled during our construction process and adding on here at my home. Um, but most everything has been recorded out of there, except Chad had recorded his drum parts in Nashville. We did it kind of remotely. And that's the beauty of, I guess, the internet and the digital age. It's very convenient, or much more easy now to take content and pass it through the wire. And, and I could pull up tracks or take tracks I've recorded in my studio, say, and we can send them to Nashville and pull them up there and continue progress, and then bring them back to my studio and mix on them, and or go wherever we want, really. And I mean, that's the beauty of that, and that makes it very convenient. So.
Oh, I had no idea. I mean, I've only been in a studio once, and we were together. So,
Well, it would be very difficult, as you say, logistically with the distance. It would be very or much more difficult to do these sorts of creative things with these folks if we didn't have the internet as we do. And so it's a real blessing. I mean, so we're grateful for that, and hopefully we can continue to keep using those methods. But I hope to get out and see some of these folks too, especially my friend Brad in Colorado, and and folks in other places. My friend Brian Carney is a longtime musician friend of mine that plays on some of my music, and he's in Iowa. I've got another one in Indiana, my friend Bill Nunley. Just we're spread out everywhere, but it's all about coming together and making the music. And we, I just it's a passion of mine. I mean, I've never been one that, I mean, I care about making it economical for us, especially in these days. Things are more expensive, but it's nothing that I ever felt like I did for money. I do it because I have to do it. I love to write songs, and it's just my passion. And so I've been doing it since I was in 8th grade, writing
wow,
songs.
that's awesome. So, this podcast is called Bloom Where You're Planted. So, what does that quote mean to you?
Well, to me, that means doing the best with what you got where you're at, as Teddy Roosevelt said, I guess,
Mm.
and it means making your community a better place through, like I guess, was it Picasso that said, the meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose is give it away. I think like that, I sort of come to that kind of conclusion on it, because it's, a lot of people, growing up, young people, I remember myself even going, oh, I just want to go somewhere. I just want to go somewhere. I want to do this or do that. But, to me, it's the moment is now. There is no past. The future hasn't happened. I mean, there is a past, but we can't live in it. And the future hasn't happened. We have to live in the now. And so to bloom where you're at, that's to live in the now and be here and appreciate. You see a flower bloom, you appreciate its petals, you appreciate it for what it is and what it gives, the joy or the beauty that it gives to you, and you take inspiration from that. And so to me, as you asked me that, Laura, my feeling on it is this passion that I have, or that an artist might have, you know do the best you can where you're at, and make it work, and just and I guess seize the blessings of today.
Mm.
And because today is the only time that there is. Now is the only moment.
Excellent, excellent. So, what words of advice would you give to someone that wants to do what you do?
Don't give up. It's so easy just to give up. There's so much failure. I wouldn't look at myself as someone who's had success, I guess, in a lot of ways, but other than I've continued to be able to do it and experience it. And I think there's success in that of in itself. And I think we lose sight of that as artists sometimes. Um, or whatever kind of maker you are, or whatever your passion is, people lose sight of the forest or the trees from the forest, so to speak. I guess, you get so close that you don't take a step back and say, well, what are my successes? And there's always going to be failures, and you have to work through those failures. You learn from each failure, and every failure is a new opportunity to reset and, re-establish your foundation and move forward. And, um, I think it's important to have goals. I think I've had goals in my life, but I think it's important to write those goals down and do little things each day, and make a journal and write those things down that you do, um, and chip away at it. And it doesn't have to be something that takes a lot of time, but just like write it down each day and see that you're working toward those goals, and reflection. I think is one of the most important things. I think in this day and age, um, I think as I was growing up, I remember watching George Jetson, and that's before my time really, but I watched George Jetson, and I remember thinking, like, and my father and I talking, like, oh, well, maybe in the future, like, we'll have these technologies, and people will have time to do whatever they want to do and things that they enjoy doing instead of just working a job. But I think that, um, we need to remember that, we can't just always go, 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 go. We have to take time to step back and reflect and appreciate too. And I think that's important.
Um, Wonderful words of wisdom. And so I appreciate you giving us your time today. And I hope your voice improves. And so if anyone listening, you can know that this is not his typical voice. And
Yes, it's not my typical voice. and I want to say one more thing on that George Jetson note, Laura, is just, I guess what I'm meaning by that is you know, everyone thinks that, like, the technology and stuff, it's kind of, we've not, like, technology hasn't really had us decrease our work. It's only really kind of pushed it forward, and everything is sped up. And so I just want to make that distinction. I feel it's important for young people to, even though we're immersed in these technologies, it's not the be all end all. It's not a replacement. I feel like the greatest technology ever invented, well, we're looking at each other right now,
right.
the human mind. I mean, I feel like that. And so we have to take heed of that, and, and just realize what a gift that is, and take time to appreciate and reflect. And I think that can do our art a lot of good. So I just wanted to say that.
Oh, thanks for sharing that. The Jetsons was my era. It wasn't the old times for me. It was my era. So the Flintstones and the Jetsons.
Oh yes, I love the Flintstones too.
Both ends of it, the future and the past.
I think that there was an episode of the Flintstones where they had a rock band on there because they called it the Caveman Cavies, and it's I think it's like, we're going to rock all night, we're going to sleep all day, we're the cavemen. Yeah, it's something like that. There was kind of a play on, I don't know if it was a play on Kiss or what it was, but it was just, I always enjoyed all those. It was such a great memories of those cartoons.
Yeah, I actually bought DVDs. I still have DVDs, so I bought.
Oh, me too.
So, well, I thank you so much, Morgan, and we look forward to maybe catching up another time. But
I hope we can. That would be great.
So as our time comes to a close, remember to keep creating, keep sharing, and keep supporting each other. And remember to bloom where you're planted. Bye for now.